Coming up on CarAdvice, mid-size SUVs, we pit the Volkswagen Tiguan against the Mazda CX-8 to see who comes out on top.
The return of the Toyota Supra. Will Toyota fans embrace the new Supra as the brand's new performance hero?
And the new BMW X7. Has BMW raised the bar in its rivalry with Audi and Mercedes-Benz?
Welcome to Car Advice. We've got another huge show in store for you this evening. I'm Trent Nikolic. Thank you for joining us. Firstly, mid-size SUVs. We'll compare the category favourite Volkswagen Tiguan with a newcomer, the Mazda CX-8, important segment in Australia. The 2020 Toyota Supra, after hundreds, thousands? Millions possibly, of articles, teasers and spy leaks. I love spy leaks. Toyota has finally lifted the lid on this much anticipated sports car at the Detroit Motor Show. And the BMW X7 will take a look at the new large SUV from the BMW stable and see whether it asks questions now of Audi and Mercedes-Benz, because this is key for the brand in Australia. Joining me to talk all things auto, Paul Maric. Good evening.
Mate. Did you enjoy the break?
I didn't have one.
No,
I didn't have a holiday. We were supposed to, but it never materialised. I tell you who else hasn't had a holiday. Toyota PR departments, because for the last, 10 years, they've been releasing photos of a Supra that has never seen the light of day.
And you know what? I had the chance to go last year to drive a prototype version of this car.
How long ago?
It was a fair while ago, maybe September last year.
And we still haven't seen it until now.
And I was convinced that when I got there, they would have the car unwrapped and we'd be driving around in this beautiful looking thing. No, it was fully camouflaged. And it wasn't until just a couple of days ago that they finally pulled the wraps off this thing. And I've got to say, it looks pretty much as I expected it to.
Yep.
I really like it. Do you?
Look, I do. I think it's one of those cars that's going to look better in the flesh than it looks in photos. And I know you've seen it in the flesh, albeit camouflaged. I have a feeling, though, when I actually see it up close and get to have a real look at it from all angles, I think it'll look even better.
No, I agree. But it's good news here because we're talking about 250 kilowatts of power from an inline 6, a turbocharged 6 from BMW, 500 newton meters of torque. And the best bit is they've revealed that it will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in a staggering 4.3 seconds. It is quick. 275mm wide rear tyres on it. Cool. Pilot Sport rubber. I was blown away when I had a chance to drive this. Yes, there is no manual at the moment, but a manual I think is coming. There's also a 4-cylinder version coming as well. But this is all you need. I haven't told my wife this yet, but I'm going to buy one.
Of course you are. At this time of year, we do something every year at Car Advice, and it's not look at our New Year's resolutions, because two things happen. You either have none or you don't follow them anyway. In my case, nothing happens. What we do though, and I find this really interesting, I love this, we have a look at the sales figures from 2018 and surprise, surprise, Australians like dual cab utes, don't they?
You know what, it's, I wish I could say it was a surprise,
but
wasn't. You guys at home have been buying dual cab utes like you wouldn't believe. Toyota Hilux, Ford Ranger, Toyota Corolla, they were your top 3 sellers for last year, and the market contracted a little bit. We've seen house prices going down, a little bit less confidence in terms of spending. So that wasn't exactly a surprise, but what was a surprise that Toyota, Mazda, Hyundai occupy the top 3 spaces. And that was kind of on the back of Toyota gearing up to roll out this 5-year warranty. And another big news item there as well is that they're doing a 60-day money-back guarantee as well.
That's a huge deal. Yeah, that's a huge deal. I don't know how feasible that is for a car company. I'm a little perplexed at that. I know what they're trying to do in terms of appealing to the buyer to say, take it home. It's, like if you're selling bedding, you want people to take it home, sleep in the bed, see if it works, you don't like it, you return it. But with a car, it's a big ticket item. I mean, what are you going to have people, we mentioned Supra, you're going to have people driving Supras, thrashing them for 60 days and going, oh, it's not quite what I thought it was, and bringing it back with bald tyres. I don't know how that works.
Look, they've got conditions around this sort of stuff, and that's to be expected because, I mean, otherwise everyone would be doing that. Not you or I.
No, we'd never do that.
Everyone would.
Yeah, we'd never do that.
So last year we had 1.1 million new cars sold, about 3% down on the year before. So 3% may not sound like much, but for a market that was expanding continuously, it is a bit of a big drop there. So this year is going to be big. That Triton is another car that sold in huge numbers last year.
Well, that's a sales star for me in 2018. Obviously, Toyota have got 2 in the top 3, but Mitsubishi Triton, nearly 25,000 units sold last year, shows that the value proposition of the Triton is actually resonating with consumers. Well, Paul, this is something that's happening more and more in the automotive world, and consumers don't love it, I've got to be honest. But Ford and Volkswagen have announced what we spoke about a couple of weeks ago on the show, that they are partnering up for utes and vans, commercial vehicles. I think it's a harsh reality in 2019 moving forward for these car manufacturers. We'll talk about it later in the episode with the Supra because they've paired with BMW to develop that car. I think whether we like it or not, we're going to see more and more of this.
What this effectively means is these companies are going to be looking at a saving of $500 million a year. But it also means that from around 2022, 2023, when this partnership comes into effect, that car there, the Maric, will be 14 years old. So I don't think they'll be doing anything with it between now and then. But what it does mean is that Volkswagen gets to leverage Ford's incredible experience here with the dual cab ute platform.
Well, there's absolutely no doubt that Ford have kicked 100 different goals with the Ranger. Globally, you know, that platform, the way it's worked, the different variants, now Ranger Raptor, it's clear that Ford knows what it's doing with dual cab utes. So for Volkswagen to tap into that expertise is a smart move, I would have thought.
It is. And what does Ford get out of the deal? Well, Volkswagen is a company that absolutely loves its electric products as well. Ford will get access to the MEB platform, which is their electric vehicle platform. And it also means that we could see hybrid or electric utes in the future. A hybrid thing could be a really good proposition there. It's exciting times, but it also means that if you have a look at it, Navara will eventually be shared with Mitsubishi for the Triton and the Renault product as well. We've got Toyota, which will stand on its own with Hilux. Then we've got these two that are going to be together. There will only be a number of unique cars on the market here, with Mazda doing a joint venture there with Isuzu as well. So.
We'd love to hear what you think. So advice at caradvice.com. Let us know if it would bother you that a Ford is in fact a Volkswagen platform or vice versa, and whether you'd buy the product. Well, medium SUVs, Paul, unbelievably popular segment in Australia.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Didn't no one told you?
No.
Oh, well, they're very popular, if you weren't aware. Yeah, people like buying them. And two of the most interesting for me are the Volkswagen Tiguan and the Mazda CX-8. Now, the Tiguan we're talking about here is the all-space.
Yes.
This is a comparison we've done at caradvice.com. Let's first, though, dispel a myth.
Okay.
Neither of these are proper seven-seaters, are they?
I've been in trouble with this before by calling out not proper seven-seaters, because if I can't fit in the third row, to me it's not a seven-seater.
Well, you're a fully grown adult.
Correct. Yeah. So some people have these things called kids, and it's kids that you're going to fit into the third row of these things, and they actually fit quite nicely.
Up until the age of probably 12 or 13. Once they get a bit older, there's not enough room.
Yeah, and these cars are perfect for a scenario where you've got soccer practice with your kids and you all of a sudden have to bring home 4 extra kids or something like that. So these are a great option there. The CX-8's new to the scene. It's diesel only. It's based off the CX-5, but longer, but not quite as long as the CX-9. Yeah. Not as wide as the CX-9, so it is a bit confusing. And the Tiguan All-Space is, of course, based on the Tiguan as well. Pricing kicks off for CX-8 at $42,490, which is fairly healthy. Yeah. But it takes a staggering jump to top spec of $61,490 because they don't have anything in between. So you either have the base or the top spec, which is interesting.
It really is, and I think the other one that is really worth having a conversation about here is diesel only. Now, you can sit down and look at the facts and figures and the numbers and try to work out how the CX-8 fits size-wise within the Mazda range. That's fine, but for me, one of the questions we've had a lot at the website is it's diesel only, and do I need or want a CX-8 as a diesel? Do you think Mazda's kicked an own goal here, or is it directed at a completely different buyer?
Look, I reckon they absolutely have. And the reason I say that is because diesel only excludes a lot of buyers. We often don't recommend a diesel if you're going to be doing city driving, because you'll then potentially start having issues with particulate filters. Diesel is currently a lot more expensive than petrol is, so there's quite a few issues there in terms of reasons you wouldn't go a diesel. But then if we flip the equation over to the Tiguan, which kicks off from $40,490, it steps up to the top spec of $54,590. So it's reasonably priced, but the problem is, it's really small. Yeah. So it's not that much bigger than a regular Tiguan. And to put this into perspective, that CX-8 is 4.9 metres long.
That's right.
And the Tiguan is 4.7. A Kluger is around 4.9 metres. So the CX-8 is a certified big car, but the Tiguan really is quite a small package.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the cabins first. Now, for me, Mazda in Australia has traded for quite a while now on that premium sense, that premium feel, without necessarily the premium price tag. A few things have changed in that regard though. Volkswagen have shifted their pricing. Mazda's has gone up a little bit. Volkswagen's has stayed where it was. So price-wise, they can be very competitive. And I don't know that the current iteration of the Mazda interior is quite as premium in its appearance as it used to be. And I think here, the Volkswagen just nudges ahead of the Mazda in terms of that sense within the cabin once you're seated in the driver's seat.
Yeah, that's true, especially in the base model there with the Sport in the CX-8.
Yeah.
It kind of misses out on the trendy features you'll find in the top spec, like your wood trim and that type of thing. But the good news is that both brands now offer a 5-year warranty, which is excellent news for buyers. And you'll also find that they're both now really competitive in terms of servicing costs.
Yes, they are.
They're no longer quite an expensive proposition. You can get cap price servicing and you know the costs you're going to be up for. And for me, tech is important as well. Both now have Apple CarPlay, which is the technology that allows you to mirror your smartphone, and both are really safe as well, both 5-star ANCAP crash rating. So, I mean, it is horses for courses in this segment.
I think also too, if you move back past the second and third rows into the luggage area, so if you go to caradvice.com and have a look at the review, you can see the third row visibly because Jez has sat in all 3 rows and you can see how much room he's got. What I think actually is impressive about these 2 vehicles, given the platform themselves, is they have usable luggage space. So you mentioned soccer practice before. You know, you see parents with those massive big nets that have got, 10 soccer balls in them and all the gear bags and what have you. If you're lugging that home from training, you've got room to fit it into that luggage space, and that's important.
It is absolutely critical. The amount of big SUVs we see that are 3-row, like Pajero Sport, Ford Everest, for example, you crack the boot open when the third row's up. You could barely fit a box of tissues there.
That's right, exactly.
So it is good that they've thought about this stuff, but if size is the ultimate thing here for you, the CX-8 has the Tiguan lick just by the fact that it is a bigger car altogether. In terms of the engines, I did the launch of the CX-8 locally. I was blown away with that thing. 450 Newton meters of torque.
That's impressive.
It is a whopper.
Really impressive.
Compared to 400 Newton meters with the Tiguan. But the big difference is the weight. So there's obviously a weight difference between them. The Tiguan is lighter, so it feels a little bit quicker. But I just felt really sure-footed there in the Mazda. It uses a conventional gearbox, doesn't have a dual clutch gearbox, which can sometimes feel a little bit just not nice at low speeds.
Not as enjoyable. I think at CarAdvice, we've universally said that the Allspace doesn't ride quite as well as the standard Tiguan. That's our position in general. You mentioned performance there. I think the next step for performance is how they feel from behind the wheel. And the interesting thing with both these vehicles for me, and I mean, Mazda have been doing it for quite a while with the CX-5, the smaller SUV, and Tiguan's been renowned for this for a while too. They feel a lot more car-like to drive than large SUV-like. That's the key, isn't it? Because mums and dads are driving these around town. They're not going off-road in them. They're driving them around town on our poor urban road network, so they need to be able to ride well.
Yeah, and that's the key thing here. I have this test that I do with each car. I'll go to Coles, and they've got this incredibly tight underground car park where I live. And the thing that surprises me is that SUVs, they tend to struggle sometimes the bigger they get, especially when you get the ladder frame SUVs, like, again, the Pajero Sport, Ford Everest type things. They're quite hard to park. They're hard to get in and out of. They're just a little bit cumbersome, whereas these are the perfect size to be drivable on a highway, parkable in a shopping centre, and then accessible for kids as well. So they really are the perfect mix there, and you don't need to step up to something like a Kluger or a CX-9, which is ultimately a much larger car.
So we had the final scoring: Mazda CX-8, 8 out of 10 overall. Volkswagen Tiguan Allspace, 7.5 out of 10 overall.
Close.
Reflects how close it was, and it was genuinely close as well. Advice at caradvice.com. If you'd like to ask us any other questions about these 2 vehicles, or have a look at the review, tell us what you think of these 2 when they go head-to-head. The Toyota Supra, Paul. Not the one from the Fast and Furious. Not a 1JZ, not a 2JZ. We've got a guy that rings the radio show every week banging on about a 2JZ. No, that's gone. It's done. We're moving on in the world. It's 2019, not 1995. So Toyota has finally taken the covers off the Supra. We mentioned it in news. It looks good there. You've seen it in red. Now you're seeing it in that steely grey colour. The first thing that we really need to address, it's not so much the elephant in the room because it's been reported at length across all of the various news outlets that we run, but this is a joint development between Toyota and BMW. Now, some people have a problem with this. Some people are saying it's not a real Supra, or the BMW fans are saying it's not a real BMW. The harsh reality for manufacturers going forward from 2019 is that they simply cannot afford to develop these vehicles on their own because of the volume that they will sell.
Yep, that is how we work in this day and age. If Toyota went out and developed a Supra, where would they get the engine from?
That's right.
I mean, they've got to develop a brand new engine. It just doesn't really make any sense. So they found a collaboration there with BMW, and I mentioned earlier in the show, I went and drove the prototype. We had a chance to interview a lot of the engineers that are working on this program, and they had some fascinating stories there. What they said is, right at the start, they met up with BMW's engineers and they agreed on critical dimensions of this car, so wheelbase, length, width, those types of things, weight distribution and so on. And then from there, they said, see you guys, and then didn't talk to each other again. So the BMW engineers are yet to drive the Supra. The Toyota engineers are yet to drive the Z4. So this is how different these cars will be. And I've got to say, Toyota has done an incredible job with this car, so it's really a good thing.
At the Paris Motor Show in 2018, we sat down with the head of the Z4 project from BMW, and he was unequivocal. He said that without Toyota being involved in this project, there would be no Z4. Now, the viewers at home are thinking about back in the old days, you know, how many people bought BMW sports cars, how many people bought Toyota Supras. Things have changed. The volume these days is in SUVs. That's why you have sports car manufacturers like Porsche, Maserati selling SUVs.
Precisely.
And the volume is not really in sports cars. So even in large markets like the US or large parts of Europe, they're not going to sell millions and millions of Toyota Supras. That's just the reality of it. So what that means is they've had to get together and co-develop this project. Now, we've seen with something like 86 and BRZ, which was Toyota and Subaru, hasn't really hurt either vehicle. You know, the Subaru fans have bought the Subaru product. Toyota fans have bought the Toyota product. I think it'll be the same here. And the point you just made there where they went away and developed their own vehicles, the fact that Toyota would have access to a BMW engine, I think is pretty fantastic for Toyota, isn't it?
And especially because it's such a good engine.
That's right,
Inline 6.
Yeah, it's a crazy engine.
It just makes me weak at the knees. It is such a good engine. So they've crammed that under the bonnet of this. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, 250 kilowatts of power, 500 newton meters of torque, and it'll do 0 to 100 in 4.3 seconds. It's mated to a ZF gearbox, which is a German manufacturer, 8-speed automatic. It's not a dual clutch, which I think is excellent.
Yeah, I like the idea of that.
Sick of dual clutches in these cars when they don't work well. This is a really good combo. Now, let's just quickly touch on the A80 Supra. So if you ask any of the people that have come in and commented, this is why you shouldn't listen to a lot of people on the internet, that Supra went up against the GTR, it was like this all combating thing. It wasn't.
No, it
I
wasn't.
grew up when that thing was new, and it did not go up against the GTR.
It only went up against the GTR when you put 1,000 horsepower through it.
And that's what people remember.
And you had to cost a massive amount of money to do that. But it was never, you know, the GTR from 32 on was always all-wheel drive, was always that type of vehicle. They were different cars, really. I mean, they compete. In Japanese sense, maybe they did if you're looking at hero performance cars. But on paper, in the real world, they didn't.
Yeah, Supra was always a cruiser. Now, in terms of pricing, this is the bit we still don't know. Toyota Australia rather, is being very secretive about this. They have revealed pricing in the US, so it has a starting price of around the $45,000 US mark. Now, if you do some number crunching there, it puts that figure at around the $60,000 to $70,000 mark for Australia. But I have some confidence here because the 86 equivalent started in the US for about 25,000 US.
And it was only 30 grand
Exactly.
here. And they blew us out of the water when they announced that. I was at the original launch of the 86, and I've never seen a group of motoring journalists, there were about 40 people in the room, just all shaking their heads because they were expecting a price of about 40 and it was 30. So the problem is if it's around that $60,000 or $70,000 mark plus on roads, it's going to be over 80. I think it needs to be closer to 60, 65 to be a real world affordability thing in Australia,
There's
surely.
a slight issue.
What's that?
And that is that Australia will get adaptive suspension and the active differential.
That'll be standard.
And these things are probably going to push that price up. So fingers, legs, everything is crossed at the moment because like I said, I want to buy one, but I can only get away with so much with the financial controller at home.
Yeah, you won't get over
Okay, so how does it drive? It's incredible to drive. It's really good fun. I love the noise out of the exhaust, the induction noise, and the best bit is it has a BMW interior. Toyota interiors aren't all that fantastic, so they've loaned that. It uses iDrive with some bespoke Toyota elements there.
Well, see, that's a big deal too because Toyota's infotainment system has never really been up to standard. They've been lagging so far behind the rest of the vehicles in whatever segment they're in.
Exactly. So it'll be in Australia mid to late this year. I personally cannot wait to get behind the wheel. What colour would you choose?
I don't mind that. I think red's going to be the hero colour. I love that, absolutely. Advice at caradvice.com. Let us know whether you would buy one. I'd love to know whether you'd buy one. And let us know whether you agree with us that the original Supra never really competed with the GTR anyway. But finally, we can show you exactly what the Toyota Supra looks like. We've had some fantastic correspondence at advice@caradvice.com, and that's not including the ones from our mums, our dads, uncles, relatives, but everybody else except our direct family members. Keep them coming. Paul, we've got a really good one to kick things off tonight.
Yeah, so this is an email from Josh who said, love the show, can't wait for the BMW X7. Will you guys do a comparison with Q7 and the new Mercedes-Benz?
Yes.
Yes, we will,
yes,
definitely.
We will, absolutely, Josh.
But I've got to let you in on a little secret. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention this, but I'll do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
The X7, they had a prototype version of it brought into BMW's headquarters in Melbourne.
Right.
So it came to BMW fully camouflaged. They peeled off the camouflage and it's now sitting in their showroom. Holy crap. It looks so good.
Looks good.
It kind of looks a bit funny in pictures. It's like a big version of the X5.
Yeah.
But my goodness, it looks stunning in person.
A few people have told me that's got a bit of Volvo XC90 about the proportions of it.
Yes.
But I think for the size of it, it is a good-looking SUV, isn't it?
You know what? And people should be alarmed. Well, people at Audi and Mercedes-Benz should be alarmed because the new GLS, which is a competitor to this, is light years away. I don't know where that is. Q7 is a big car, but it's been out for ages now. And it's not quite as luxurious as the X7, so...
And that's the kicker, Josh, too. The Q7, really, that's had it all its own way. In the luxury SUV segment, if you're not looking at something like a Range Rover, you're looking at an Audi Q7, and you have been for quite some time because, BMW X5 isn't there, and as you said, GLS, that platform, not quite up to, modern standards in the way that the Q7 is. So I think BMW coming into that segment now with a completely new platform like this is a huge deal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait to drive it. We, at the time of filming this, we don't have pricing and specifications for Australia, but we do know that it will be sharply priced. It has to be sharply priced. So just like the X5, expect to be able to customise interior colours, comes with iDrive 7, and just a really good looking car. And you're going to the international launch?
I am, yeah. I'll be seeing it overseas. I think, Josh, the other point to make in answer to your original question, obviously we'll do that comparo. I mean, it's begging for that. I think you need to be careful when these cars land, though, because BMW, what they've been doing recently is they've been launching at a price point like they have with X5 of about 113,000, give or take. Then there will be an entry-level car that will come in after that and undercut.
Two-wheel drive.
Yeah, will undercut that original launch variant. So I think it's really likely that the first X7 we see in Australia won't necessarily be the most affordable one. That's a fair point, isn't it?
Yep. Another fair point is I don't know that grille could be any bigger. It is huge.
So, second reader question tonight is a really left field one for me, Paul. It's about solar roofs on cars and insurance. And I think a couple of episodes ago, we weren't exactly that supportive of the concept of cars having solar roofs. One of our readers has asked that question.
So this is an email from Michael. And when I opened it, I saw the word disappointing to start with.
Oh,
and I thought,
it's like talking to your parents, isn't it?
Yes,
you failed that test.
Pointing out the obvious flaws here. No, what Michael has said is disappointing to hear you're sceptical of car rooftop solar. So that was what we were discussing. If the car panels are as robust and reliable as PV home rooftop solar, owners can expect to see a lifespan of 20 years or more with reasonable efficiency still being achieved and capable of deflecting golf ball-sized hail. Now, that's a really good point, and I didn't think about that because you look at like right now, summer, you're getting a lot of thunderstorms. Sydney copped a hammering over Christmas, and you can easily destroy a car. By using PV panels on the roof, it means you're actually getting that extra rigidity and stability because you do have these things on homes as well. So look, I mean, it's more just an efficiency thing. Like I mentioned, you've got to get them, they have to be bent around the roof so they can fit. You've got to get inverters. Batteries. I mean, there's a lot of work
extra
involved.
weight, isn't it? Look, I think for me, in response to this this query, it's not so much that I'm against the idea of them. I think the concept and the technology itself is pretty clever.
Yeah, that's
now
true.
you see a lot of in a lot of camping and four-wheel drive applications, you see these solar mats that you can roll out. They'll only charge realistically small things. They'll run fridges and stuff like that at a campsite.
Your hair straightener.
My hair straightener, exactly, yeah, I've used that today. The funny thing is, though, that I don't know that they can go beyond that to run a lot more power. And then the other question I'd like to ask viewers is this. There's a lot of people that are watching this show tonight that'd be driving 20-year-old cars.
That's true.
Or 15-year-old cars. So say you're in a 15-year-old car and you know in 5 years' time you have to replace that roof at a cost of what? You know, what's it going to cost to retrospectively replace a solar roof that's 20 years old, you know, that's in the car? Can you still get the replacement parts? I think that's the bigger factor, is that these things have a lifespan. What we're not used to with cars is that so much of the vehicle has a lifespan. Traditionally, older cars, you can just keep them running and keep them boiling along as long as you look after them. This new technology, it basically has to be thrown out and you start again.
Well, there's another question for people at home, advice at caradvice.com. Are you a mechanic?
Yeah.
How do you actually work on a new car? Is it impossible?
Yeah, that's
really
a good
keen to
question.
hear from people.
Yeah, that's true. That's all we've got time for this evening. So thank you again for joining us, Paul. Thanks for being
Thank you,
here.
mate.
We will see you again next week at 7:30 p.m. Wednesday nights on Your Money.